Kia ora and welcome to a meeting of the 12th of November 2024, and we are back to reconvene and discuss a few one more report, which is to do with the Memorial Park Aquatic Centre. Just before we start, we are joined by another public forum speaker, Mr. Peter Cooney, and I would like to invite them forward. Are we both speaking, or
all of them?
Okay. Peter will you'll have 5 minutes speaking time, and then when we're finished, there'll be availability of questions from the members.
5 minutes isn't a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks for having us. This is obviously to do with Tauranga. Our opinion's pretty clear in the Tauranga West area, so we're here to sort of have a bit of a discussion on that, and it's from our point of view as one of the largest developers throughout the country. We see the apologies, we see what's going on around the country, and it's no different to what we see issues about this density and what you're trying to achieve. And from my point, there is no technical report prepared which supports 25 lots per hectare. You haven't done one. We still can't work out how you've got to this 800 lots at 22 houses per hectare and then increasing to 25. There's no data, there's no information on that whatsoever. We can't find it. In our handout that we've given you, and which a report which was commissioned by you, the council, in 2020, on page 87, but you've got a short copy there, you'll see it, and it's highlighted. This was done by Market Economics, November the 20th. I can't understand why this has been ignored to date and all the evidence that's been produced for the hearings coming up. And it recommends, and it states, a range of potential housing based upon the potential land allocated to different housing densities, 15 to 19 net dwellings per hectare, as being physically achievable within the Tauranga West. Now, this was a report done by you in 2020, and this hasn't come up in any discussions we've had, and I don't know why. So you've done a report, you've commissioned it, but you're not using it. Then you've got all the other growth areas under Plan Change 33, which has just been released this year. You're only required to develop 13 lots per hectare. So where's the 25 lots per hectare come from Tauranga? You've got Te Papa, this whole Te Papa Peninsula. You've got no densities on it. And you want to put 25 lots per hectare on our lot. On what basis? What commercially sound basis are you basing this information on? Because I can tell you right now, from a developing point of view, it doesn't stack up, it doesn't work. You've used, in Kenny's report, which you'll see that's lodged, that's as evidence, he's used all these examples of where the density has been used. These examples are misleading. You've used Kaimo Views, which is our development, which is a joint venture arrangement with Western Bay District Council. You've used that. You've used stage one of it. That was 300 odd lots we did in there, not just 20 or 30 odd lots. You've used a very small sample of that. Plus in that area, that came to 17.5 lots per hectare, not 20.2. It did come to 20.2, but we had to put some terrace housing in there. And we had to put it in there as part of a deal with affordable housing and Western Bay Council. And I can tell you right now that affordable housing that we put in there, we can't sell half of it. We're selling it for $599,000. We can't sell it. And we're actually at that price, we're actually losing money on it. Now, if we didn't have to do that, or were forced into doing that by council, that Kaimo Views was 17.9 lots per hectare. Not what Kenny's, not what Veros has put in the report.
19.5.
19.5, sorry, but it's well away from what he's suggesting. The other things, you've used East Quarter. East Quarter you've used, which is again one of our developments. You've used one small area of it for the density, and you haven't taken the whole lot into account. And what's more, East Quarter, we can't sell the damn stuff. We're sitting on it. It does not sell. We can't sell the terrace housing. So why would we go out to Tauranga and build 70% in terraced housing when we can't sell it in East Quarter right now? Why would we do that? This is my whole point. It's not, we are the ones taking the risk here. It's my money or shareholders' money that I'm putting in. We've analysed the market. We understand the market. We're investing millions and millions of dollars in this. We started 8 years ago, if you remember rightly. But when we look at a project, we take best practice. We look at what we think it's going to sell for, what it's going to cost to build, and work our way back. And work our back to as to what the land's worth. Now, we've done all that. We do it in every development across the country. You can appreciate we have a joint venture arrangement in the New Zealand Superannuation Fund. They didn't join or they didn't become partners with us because we didn't know what we're doing. It's because we do know what we're doing. And so we have a real issue how you've come about with these sort of builds. The other thing you've used...
30 seconds, sorry.
You've used examples... You've used examples of using Hobsonville. You've used 5 hectares of Hobsonville. Hobsonville was 80 hectares. You've used, what's the other one they used? You've used
Pegasus.
You've used Stonefields. Stonefields, that product's $2.5 million. When you start getting into a really expensive product market like that, your density does get higher. We're not talking about that price point. There's so many things that are wrong with this. That, I mean, I could go on for another 20 minutes, but if I've only got that long, then I've only got that long. But the other thing, you want density, but as council, you're not prepared to give us an amenity. You guys have cut the amenity value. You're not prepared to spend it. You can't tell us when you're going to do it, and yet you want density. You want me to take a risk on this when you're not committing to that amenity? I'm sorry, but I'm not prepared to sign an agreement with council on that basis. So I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Peter. Has anyone got any? Councillor Kuro.
Thank you, Peter. Elsewhere in New Zealand, are you aware of any development with that level of density, around 25, that's been successful and rolled out significant housing that's been, has been excellent or accepted?
Where it's been done, Rick, when you get a large scale area, I mean, we're talking 140 odd hectares here. Where you get the medium density, you might get it on the edge or the periphery of a town centre or amenity, and it's normally only a small, it might be 5 hectares or 6 hectares or 2 hectares. Okay, so I mean, in every large scale development, you'll get a small area where you'll get greater density. It might be a retirement village, it might be a little gated community, but over a large scale, over 120 hectares, you will never see 25, well, I can't give you an example of 20 lots per hectare over 130 hectares. There isn't one. And that's why they can't, in the evidence, they can't link it to anyone. So those sort of densities normally surround, we will do it. There will be an area in there where we go to 25 lots a hectare, but we're not doing it from stage 1. It'll be more likely down by the river somewhere. But that'll be in the later stages. Remember, the lakes started at 12 lots per hectare. They slowly crept up to 18 over time. That's what we're saying. The market will dictate when we're ready to do that density. Right now it's not. And right now, right across the country, terrace housing is well out of favour.
Thank you. That's correct. So, given what I've heard, and I think this matter should actually be heard by the full council. Housing is our biggest problem, and I don't want to threaten rolling out more housing development to make the supply and demand equation healthier, to make housing affordable and available. So this concerns me. I campaigned on providing more housing because that is our number one issue. Do you feel with the process that's occurred and and it being heard by the independent hearings panel, is that correct? We'll be hearing and making a recommendation to council that you'll get a fair hearing and a fair shot?
Yeah, look, the hearing is more about, it's a plan change that we're going to the hearing over, but this is, we've appealed this particular policy in the plan change. We've said no to 25. This is a council recommendation, and we've argued from day one that we don't agree with 25 lots per hectare. I mean, it's not financially stable. We will not develop at that rate. If you tell us it's 25, I'm just telling you flat out, we won't develop. I'd rather just keep farming it, to be honest, because I'm not going to take that risk. This is a massive risk. You guys, we're putting up all the upfront money. This should be a DC policy where you claim it back. We're taking just as much risk as you are by paying the money up front. So, if you want to take that risk, you buy the Kongaroa land and you do 25 lots per hectare, and then you go back and tell your ratepayers when it doesn't financially give you a return, what happened? Because that's a reality. I've got to do that. So I've got to make those assessments when we're spending this sort of money. It is a large-scale piece of land. I know you've got Smith's Farm and I know you've gone for density, but you've dictated those terms to them, and it's only a small area. And don't get me wrong, we'll have 10 or 12 hectares in there which will do that sort of density, but we're not doing it right through the whole subdivision. It's just suicide.
Got any other questions? Right, thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and giving us that view. Obviously,
This is the report you've done, by the way, so I'd recommend that some of you read it, because you've paid for this report.
so I will indulge you. Councillor Morris.
I appreciate your indulgence, Your Worship. Question through you to the staff. Just in regard to the housing, the density, the 25 dwellings per hectare, understanding the direction from the National Policy Statement, urban development, and also through the amendment to the Regional Policy Statement, can you help enlighten us where that number came from as an aspiration and what sits behind that?
Andy.
Go down here on my knees, I guess. Look, I guess as a starting point, it's not really appropriate to talk about the merits of the issue at this point, because it's before the hearing panel, and the hearing is upcoming, and the various parties' views have been put forward to that hearing. So we need to let that process run, and a recommendation will be brought back for your consideration and decision making at that point. In a general sense, where density has come from is it's come from our strategic planning processes through UFD and through smart growth, which actually set out a density of 30 dwellings per hectare as the target, the aspiration for greenfield developments moving forward. We've had specific discussions around this project, around whether that would be appropriate or not, and other parties had a strong line that we should be aiming for 30, and we managed to dial things back to enable projects like the enabling works to move forward with, at that point, an agreed level of density being 25. Things have clearly changed, and there's matters to play out, but these densities are not absolute. There is a planning framework that is in place, it's already in place through the city plan to enable these matters that Peter is talking about to be considered through consenting processes. So market conditions, feasibility of development, but the purpose of the planning framework is to set out the strategic direction, the aspiration of what we want to achieve over the full 25-year development of Tauranga West, not necessarily looking at it from the lens of just today. So I don't think it's appropriate that I comment any further now, but I'll just leave it now.
Thank you for that context.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. I apologise to the public. We're actually going to go into publicly excluded for the first part of the discussion on Memorial Pool. So we'll just have to ask the public to leave. We will, if you want to come back, because we're just discussing a couple of sensitive economic business case, etc. And we will open it back up for the main discussion as soon as we've got the information that we require. So now call for, and if you wait in the foyer,